Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my boy B, and today we're going to be talking about some autonomous vehicles, which, if you're new to this platform, right, we like to kind of go against the grain in that we talk about things that are traditionally go against or rebel, hence the name, normal wisdom or tradition or things that are taught. So I think this is a cool episode because the theme in itself is already such a new budding space in that autonomous vehicles, which is it goes against anything pretty much humanity has known. So I feel like this is a very natural topic, and I'm kind of excited to get into it for that reason. So as we dive in, we can kind of give some background on just anything how AV or autonomous vehicles relates to our lives. And B, I'm gonna kick it over to you to start. I obviously have a story to go along with this that you'll probably end up saying, but yeah, primarily focusing on Tesla. Waymo. I feel like is a leader in the space, and then Tesla kind of just entered the chat. So, what do you got on the autonomous vehicle space?
So I have a personal bias for Waymo. I like Waymo because I live in Phoenix, and Waymo is
Makes sense.
or Phoenix is one of the beta test rollout sites for Waymo. And so I've only have written Waymo multiple times though. And I personally love Waymo. Like the only downside is it's kind of restricted to where they have the locations available. So I can't go everywhere. It's like when you pull up a map, there's a little border that they draw, so you can't go outside of that blue line or whatever. But besides that, if you're going within the city of Phoenix and some surrounding cities like Tempe, Chandler, things like that, it's much cheaper compared to Lyft or Uber. And on top of the base fare being cheaper, you also don't have to tip because there's no one driving the vehicle. So it's just so much cheaper. I don't like talking to people inside the Uber. I just like to listen to music, just be on my phone or whatever. So that's just much more pleasant. And statistics that we'll go over later, I'm sure, states that driverless vehicles are much better. Obviously some people will not believe that, or if they're not open-minded enough, maybe for their, safety, that's validated. That's fine. They don't want to. They never want to get in a vehicle. But yeah, besides that, it's all positive. And from what I hear on the Tesla side, I think Tesla just gets a bad rep. I don't know if it's justified or not, but way more than Waymo. So that's my personal take where I stand right now. But I did a good amount of reading and video watching for this topic, so I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of that.
Yeah.
Moving
Okay.
forward.
Heck yeah. Before I go, have you ever been in a Tesla?
Yeah. No, I've been in multiple, maybe like 10 times in my life.
Okay. Have you ever experienced it autonomously?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, my buddy at work, he has the regular Tesla one. I forgot which model it is, but he has the full self-driving. And then we enabled, we went to lunch one time with a group and we're like, yo, let's test out the full self-driving. And it was good. It struggled on the highway very much because it was it went to the left lane, but doesn't go over the speed limit. So it's actually kind of dangerous to, be much slower than the flow of traffic. And we had to exit, and was on the right. But because the cars are zooming past us, the self-driving never was able to
Interesting.
go into the right lane to exit. So we actually missed the exit. They were like, all right, we got to get back. Let's take over. And then my buddy ended up taking the wheel, and then we went back to work. But yeah.
Wow, that's a great point. Dang. Okay. So you have a good little story. For me, I think I've been in Tesla and experienced the full self-drive once. I know I had a rental car at Tesla one time. Like I've driven Tesla a couple times, and I mean I like it as a normal car, but yeah, I think I've only experienced the full self-drive mode like once, and it was strictly city or suburban, streets. So nothing in the full self-drive, nothing crazy. And then I've had one. Do we do two? I've had a Waymo experience. That was with you.
Didn't we go
I
do
can't
it? Did we
remember do
do
it. I think you
there
did
and
it twice.
back?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did there and back. I
So
feel
I
like.
guess full round trip, but yeah, so 2 rides, I guess, with Waymo. Those were my only 2. They were literally with you in Phoenix, which is where Waymo rolled out, right? San Francisco? Is that where like Waymo started,
Yeah,
or was it vice versa? I don't know which
let's
came first, but I
see.
think those are the first 2 cities for Waymo.
Yeah, I guess it was Phoenix because
Yeah, I thought,
Phoenix, it
yeah,
came out October 2020, so about 10 months prior to
perfect.
launching
Yep.
in San Francisco.
Okay, that's roughly what I thought. Yeah, it was like Phoenix and then San Francisco. But I think I had a better, just more of an experience with the Waymo, like more to judge off of, and I was impressed. I'm not, I'm definitely one of the people that'll take some risk or not afraid of technology, if that makes sense. So I had no hesitation on getting in or whatever. And I think you had tried before, and like you had nothing bad to say about it. So I was like, easy day for me. But one of the points you made was that there's a lot of resistance met with it, and I think that's just human nature. Like humans don't like change, and this is a massive change to the history of transportation. So like, yeah, it's gonna be met with resistance until the numbers don't lie and they start to show that it's statistically safer. Which if I feel like if we just take a second and think about it, it's not gonna be autonomous speeding and breaking all the rules, right? It's gonna be very law abiding. So you might get there a little bit slower, but I feel like it's gonna make sense as long as the tech is reliable, that it's safer because it's probably gonna drive way better, and by better I mean uh follow the rules way more than a human driver. So I think it's just a matter of time, dude, before it gains, I don't know, popularity or acceptance by the masses, and then it's like we're gonna see this stuff all the time. But yeah, I have few experiences with both, but good experiences with both. I don't think I'm, from my personal experience, lean like one way or the other. Now, based off what I've read, I have some opinions on, one or the other, which we can get to. But nonetheless, I think it's exciting stuff, again, to see how it kind of shapes society moving forward. And you living in like the hub of Waymo, you just probably see them way more than the average person, and yeah, take way more rides. I think that's cool.
Waymo
Waymo.
rides.
Dang, that might be they might have did that intentionally, but yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, just stepping back and thinking about it, right? You would agree that this is a next step in transportation,
Absolutely.
going from a human driver to driverless vehicles.
Yes.
So if that's the next step, I think it's inevitable. I'm agreeing with you on what you just said, because at the end of the day, like, we're not traveling on horses anymore. We're just not. Like, it everything you said will contribute to the mass adoption of uh just driverless taxis in general, but it's kind of ironic that the RoboTaxi or just a self-driving car, or self-driving things in general, will have the hardest time because of the lack of the technology. Because you would agree, obviously, the technology will just continue to get better as time
Oh,
goes
for sure.
on. And at the same time, the more that these self-driving vehicles are adopted, I feel like the road just becomes safer to drive, because those are, rule-based driving algorithms with AI. So if the taxis are making, you know, reasonable turns, they want to switch lanes, so they have their blinkers on, they're always at the speed limit. It's much more predictable. So technology gets better, and the cars driving on the road become safer. Therefore, it will be easier to navigate, and then that's going to continue. So I feel like it may be slow starting out, and I think we're still in the slow phase. But once it hits like a critical point, I don't think there's any turning back. It's going to just be crazy explosive growth. We're going to see it in, majority of the cities in the United States. They're even talking about rolling it out. At least Waymo is overseas, which will be crazy. Yeah.
I did not hear that.
But yeah, what do you want to start?
Good for them. I mean, we can piggyback off a lot of that. I guess we could just start with I guess the hardware piece, like what each side uses to drive. And you mentioned in your kind of introduction, this has nothing to do with what I just said, the approach to self-driving, just a thought I had. You mentioned like Waymo, I think you said like gets a better rep or kind of has a better reputation, which I think is interesting because, Waymo is very, I mean, it has, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be off, but it only has the one product like self-driving, where Tesla, it's a little bit more expansive because it's been around a little bit longer. They have commercially bought cars, and then, the affiliation with Elon Musk in recent politics, there was just a lot going on there. So his name gets associated with it. So I feel like brand-wise, there's just a lot more going on for Tesla, whether good or bad, that kind of adds or subtracts from people wanting to just focus up on just taking the RoboTaxi for just what it is. Self-driving car, like these are the stats, but it's got like all these other Tesla products and the name recognition. We talked about like they're in the works for like the humanoid robots, right? There's just all this other stuff going on with Tesla. So I think that's an interesting point too. And in today's day and age with the prevalence of social media and all that stuff, it's almost hard to just take things at face value. Like it's you're going to get so many opinions with it, whether good or bad, and outside just, noise that's hard to cut through. So like I've never been like a numbers guy when I say that, like good with numbers, but I feel like as I get older, I'm growing an appreciation for numbers. So definitely hope to sprinkle some numbers in this episode.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah. But to get back on topic, for sure, I think an easy one is just like, what is each side, each side being RoboTaxi, Tesla's RoboTaxi and Waymo, like what do they use to drive? Before we get into that though, have you heard of any other competitors in this space? There's one I came across. I want to see if you
No, I
or
know
ask you
that
about.
there's something with Amazon. I
Yes,
have
Zoox or
there's
something.
Amazon.
I don't know how to say it. Zoox.
Oh, is that the Amazon
That's
one?
the
I
Amazon
have
one.
seen that. I didn't know. Okay,
Yeah.
that was the Amazon one. Besides that, dude, I'm sure there's hundreds of companies working on this.
Right. I'm talking about
I
bigger.
just-
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't really hear about it.
Yeah. Okay.
But RoboTaxi, I definitely hear about it. Waymo, I see it. I see about
You
like
see
20
it,
a day.
Yeah.
So
You're
yeah,
living it.
that's my personal experience or exposure to this whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. That was the main one I was seeing. I hadn't really heard about it until the last couple of days, like thinking about this podcast. But, I mean, we all know what Amazon is. We know how colossal that company is. I'm sure they're going to find a creative, unique way to, I don't know, get some type of advantage there. But yeah, right now it's definitely the two front runners I think are pretty obvious. So
You know what would
yeah.
be cool for Amazon though?
What's that?
They can integrate not the RoboTaxi because it's Tesla, but self-driving cars. And then, we did a whole robotics. We did a 2-part episode about humanoid robots.
Yeah.
So I could see a future, and this is not anything crazy far. I'm talking about like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
You have a self-driving car from, whatever contract Amazon has or their own self-driving vehicle. A robo taxi is inside the car with a whole bunch of Amazon boxes in the back, and they just deliver it itself. Like they need to do, they just need to take it from a warehouse to an address. So they'll drop the humanoid robot is just sitting in the car waiting to arrive. Once you arrive, that robot just takes the thing, drops it on your whatever, depending on your instructions, and they go to the next house.
So
That
it's
would
just a
be-
fully automated process.
Yeah. I think I could definitely see that.
I could see that, but bro, you could cut out a step. And while you were talking, this made me think, because we also have a transportation episode where not only are the ground vehicles going autonomous, but the last year and a half, I guarantee you've never heard more about drones ever, whether it's commercial shooting music videos, whether it's war, used as defense tactics, or delivery system. Like, we're just going autonomous in more ways than one. So I think we would migrate to like a drone based system before we did the autonomous vehicle with the humanoid robot.
Yeah, you're
But
probably right.
I mean, for certain stuff, man, like I also still wouldn't be surprised at what you said, but there's just a lot of automation going on these days. But yeah, let's get into some of the hardware stuff about Waymo and RoboTaxi.
When you first look at a RoboTaxi, it just looks like a Tesla Model Y. I think it's Model Y. It's just the regular Tesla. And the crazy thing about the hardware, it makes sense that it already looks like a Model Y because Elon Musk and Tesla claim that all the Teslas, I don't know if there's a certain cutoff, but so let's just say the all new Teslas have already the hardware built into the car to do a full self-driving and become a robo-taxi as well.
Yeah.
So that's why it's going to look nearly identical. Whereas Waymo, if you look at it, it's this white SUV that's made by Jaguar. And the first thing you notice, like, there's whole bunch of just like surveillance electronics retrofitted into the vehicle or on the exteriors of the vehicle. And that's actually like a pretty important talking point when comparing Waymo versus Tesla, because Waymo uses a lot of LiDAR. That's what they're kind of famous for, all those spinning sensors. Whereas Tesla's pretty much all cameras and AI. And obviously AI is incorporated into Waymo as well, but that's their kind of, a claim to fame type of thing for Tesla. But yeah, so I see pros and cons with this on both sides. And let me start it with Waymo. Is LiDAR is just much better in terms of all weather conditions. And then the technology is just better in terms of surveillance and understanding what is in front of the vehicles, what's surrounding the vehicles, things like that. Where Tesla lacks in that department because with the camera system, with how the Tesla's approach of self-driving, it's good enough, but it just doesn't have that extra, warm and fuzzy in terms of safety compared to a Waymo. And that's why I kind of previously said Tesla just has like a bad rep, regardless of Elon Musk or not. Tesla, I do think Waymo's self-driving capabilities are just superior to Tesla, me personally. So that's one thing. But because of LiDAR and all the expensive sensory equipment, it is harder to mass produce and scale in terms of Waymo's standpoint. Where Tesla, like, that's like, if you want to future proof your plan to mass adoption for self-driving vehicles, Tesla's a better way to do it, just because it's easier, or I guess it'll be cheaper and easier to deploy that into the field. And Tesla's just able to get much, 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 much more data because it's has millions of vehicles already out there on the road taking in data from the visuals that they see. So that's like the pretty much big in a nutshell, all the hardware differences.
Heck yeah. You touch on a couple different things with the just the scalability, the cost, and all that stuff that I also wanted to talk about. But yeah, as far as the hardware, and I think from the inside, they look, to my knowledge, like pretty similar. Again, the Tesla is more commercial, so I think it looks more like a normal car, where Waymo, I mean, also does, but it's only autonomous, so it kind of caters to that. But so you mentioned LiDAR, which I want to just unpack for, sake of conversation, and just, I don't think a lot of people know what LiDAR is. And even that it's an acronym similar to radar. I didn't know radar was an acronym until I joined the military. I thought radar was just a word and it actually stands for something. So LiDAR is light detection and ranging, and radar is radio detection and ranging. So just different ways that these pieces of equipment project LiDAR light or radar, what like radio waves or whatever. For sonar, these don't have, but that's another one. Sound, navigation and ranging, and like propagating sound. So just different ways to like use different means to determine distance, essentially. So what I think is interesting in the hardware piece is that, to my understanding, Tesla is pretty much only using camera, which is visual, just visual.
Mhm.
I think it has like maybe a radar, but it's pretty much visual, like augmented with AI, right? So my immediate thought when I hear about this is like, what if it's dark? It just goes completely dark. Visuals pretty much gone. All right. Now the car has lights, right? So you can like headlights. It'll generate its own light. But to me, just at very surface level, without really unpacking anything, I immediately lean towards Waymo because it has the light detection and ranging, it has the radar as well, and it has the cameras to see visually. So there's off the back, you have three different means of detecting range and detecting objects than Tesla. So me, it's like, all right, again, strictly speaking on the hardware, I'm leaning towards the Waymo category. No questions asked. Now again, when you take in the holistic picture, comparing these two, I think Tesla will have some advantages in the category, but for me, hardware, it's easy. I'm trying to think if we left anything out. LiDAR, radar, camera. I think that's really it.
Yeah, the joke for these when people talk about Waymos is like, if it ever gets in a crash, or I saw like a famous trending video of Waymo a couple weeks ago where they were like blocking the road because there was a fire truck behind it. And then, if there's a like a fire truck or like a medical
Supposed to
truck
stop.
behind, you're supposed to just pull over to the
Yeah.
side and stop. Like Waymo, you could just clearly tell the car was like very confused and it wasn't making way for the fire truck to get around. Eventually, it just stayed there, so it eventually got around. But always the joke whenever Waymo becomes trending is, oh, maybe they missed maybe they needed more lidar sensors, because it's literally
Yeah.
it's so many of them. But yeah, I think the lidar is a big thing for Waymo, and the camera thing you talked about for Tesla.
Now it might look goofy, but I don't think anybody will mind riding in a goofy looking car if you're safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody will have any issues with that. I'm giving hardware to the Waymo team, which is a Google. It's like a subsidiary of Google, right? Like,
Yes.
right, yeah. I guess what's the parent company of Google? Alphabet, right?
Yeah, Alphabet is Google. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 1 point to them. I don't know if there's any, as far as like, so hardware. I feel like kind of goes into just the overall tech of the cars. We can kind of get into that, or lack thereof, because as we stated, Waymo completely autonomous, whereas Tesla can have human interface. Do you think there's any advantages or disadvantages there?
Yeah. So basically, what he's referencing right now is the RoboTaxi that was launched in Austin. It was an invite only event, and I
Yeah,
think there
which
was like
is
only 20 cars driving around the city or something like that. But basically, it's very same thing as Waymo. You get on the app and you call it, you set your destination, whatever. But the big caveat is there is a safety driver in the car with you for a robotaxi. So it is self-driving, but it is supervised. And that brings in the different levels of autonomous driving. Let me look that up real quick.
it just makes me think too. For like, you know, one of the things you mentioned that you like is like not having to talk to anybody, or if you have like a supervisor driver who's literally not doing anything but just like kind of there. I feel like they're gonna want to talk more because they're not focused on driving. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me.
So autonomous driving, there is 6 levels from 0 to 5, and 0 is no automation. So this is like not even in today's day and age. Like today's day and age, like there are some aspects of automation, like the lane assist that if you're driving straight or minor curves, the car will just steer for you to stay in those lanes. And also another thing is like cruise control. That's a form of automation. So 0 is no feature enabled, like you're just manually driving, where 5 is full automation in any sort of environment. And right now, traditional cars are probably uh like level 2 with partial automation, and that's the lane assist stuff. Emergency brake, like my car, if you're going above a certain speed and it gets too close to a car, like automatically brakes, which is kind of scary sometimes. But those features, I think, I'm not exactly sure, but that sounds to me like a level 2, where no car right now is at level 5, and the Waymo is at level 4, where the vehicle performs all driving tasks under certain conditions. So the certain conditions come in for Waymo where it's like in a grid system where you can't go outside the grid.
Yeah, it's geo-locked.
Yeah. So very geolocked. Yeah, exactly. So that to say, I don't even know what Tesla is. I know it's probably not as good as Waymo, so it would be at level 4 or lower. But yeah, it's probably not until another 5-10 years until we get to level 5.
That's interesting because, right, like Waymo is more autonomous. When I say more, not more capable of being autonomous, but like frequency wise, like
Mhm.
you see a Waymo, it's driving autonomous, whereas Tesla has the capability to, and I don't want to get too far off hardware yet, but like Waymo, like you said, they retrofit things with all these hardware to make it better, whereas Tesla can get like software patches and upgrades because and it can maybe get some more automation there. I mean, you have to have hardware, period,
Mhm.
to even do the autonomous task, but like I don't know, I can get software upgrades. So that'll introduce an interesting aspect maybe later. But I was gonna give a quick story. Well, not even a story. Just hearing that scale. Right now, I drive a 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe, which I knew nothing about Hyundais before driving this. So shout out to them. But it's a great vehicle and it's rated top of the line for like safety vehicles. But literally, I just came from back home, Ohio, right? I'm living in Illinois. This past weekend I drove from Ohio, and about a 6-hour trip, I like physically drove maybe 80% of the time. And it's not an autonomous vehicle, but it has proximity control, so it will,
Mhm.
stop me. It has levels too, like how close you want to get, allow the car to stop from in front of you. I had cruise control on, so that automates the speed. So I have the distance automated, the speed automated. It had lane assist on for the lanes, but then there's lane assist, and then there's this like steering wheel icon that also, it's like more than lane assist. I don't know. You have the lanes, and then there's like some steering control. So with these 4 individual features that I had on all the entire time, I literally wasn't doing anything. Like
Mhm.
I'll keep my hands off the wheel, and on the dashboard, like after I'll say 45 seconds, there's an icon that pops up. It's like,
Sick.
please keep hands on the wheel. I just touch
Yeah.
the wheel, and then I back up. Like, you know what I mean? So it's funny because, and it's a hybrid. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but so it's a partial EV electronic vehicle. But we're starting to get these cars that aren't advertised as autonomous vehicles, that are like basically can perform as autonomous vehicles. So I think that's interesting. And just hearing that scale in my head, I was like, I wonder, it's got to be like at least a 3 if I have everything enabled. Uh, you know what I mean? Yeah, and maybe 2.
Yeah, so pretty much same company,
Yep.
so same software, I'm
Yep.
sure, and it has everything that it talks
Yep.
that you talked about. But reading the scale says 3 is conditional automation, where the vehicle can control most driving tasks,
Oh, okay.
and I wouldn't say it's most because it
That sounds
can't
like 3 to
turn.
me.
It
They
can't
turn
turn.
though. I mean, okay, it doesn't
It can't make a
90
turn.
degree, but it makes strong bends.
Yeah, it can,
Yeah.
but you're not supposed to.
Right,
That's
right,
the
right, right.
yeah, because you're supposed to have it on your hands on the
Sure.
wheel.
But can it?
Whereas level 3, you don't have to at all.
Level 4? What?
Level 3,
Level 3, you don't have to what?
hold the wheel.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, at
Yeah,
all.
because
Okay.
yeah, so that's where
Mm,
Tesla was for a long time. So
got you.
yeah, but I know what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
even in today's, you said it's on. I think I drove a lot of Kias and Hyundais because when I travel for work, I like
Mhm.
that. I like
Yep.
the Korean brand.
Super set.
I
Yeah.
guess Asian cars in general. Um, but yeah, all those features that Kia has, and I'm sure other companies have it as well. It just super helpful, right? And you can just see like as I was kind of thinking, like when I'm driving on the highway, it's like when you pull up to a car next to it in a different lane or whatever, I like seeing the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was super delayed.
What did you hear? What was the last thing you heard? I tried to stop
When I pull up
the.
to
It says I
cars
can
next to cars
stop
on the highway, I
the
like seeing
uploading, but it's not even letting me do that.
it says it's uploading on my end. Like I see the normal like uploading.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not supposed to do that. Improve the live session and reduce the uploading. Resume soon as we.
I
I don't
wouldn't
know
mess with it
why.
in session. I would just let it go like we normally do, and
Yeah.
then the next one we can try to like. Yeah.
What was the last thing you heard?
When you were like when I pull up next to cars on the highway, I always try to see if, and then there was nothing.
Oh, okay. What were we talking about before?
We were talking about just the levels of self-driving, and you always get Kias and Hyundais when you travel for work because you like the Korean made, or you said like the Asian brand cars. And then you were about to say, I think I know you were about to say, were you about to say you like seeing like what the inside looks like the dash thing? That's what I thought you were about to say, like the console. Oh yeah, you're super laggy. I just don't get how it came out of nowhere though. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's still not performing well.
See that?
I don't know why they don't let me pause that. Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think we could just move on.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we were talking about level 2 versus level 3.
Yeah. Okay. You saying like move on, switch topics, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
or just to the next
Okay.
topic, I think.
Okay. So we're talking about the some levels of human interface, right? Like RoboTaxi, as it stands now, clearly needs more human interface. I don't even needs more because it has a full self-driving mode, but it is designed to have human interface now, whereas Waymo does not. And one thing about that I think is interesting is how that was incorporated in the rollout, kind of. And what I mean by that is, right, Waymo, they said I think it was like 10. Not 10 million miles. Oh, I said I wanted to get the numbers in here, and now I forgot the number. But basically, before Waymo hit the streets, right, and became like you can go on the app and get it, they had to map it out. And as you said, it's geofenced, so Waymo does not operate outside of a certain like geographical area. But it's nice because within that mapped out area, they have like X amount of hours that went into mapping it, and now that Waymo use those routes, like certified routes, or you can look up how many rides Waymo has done in Phoenix or San Francisco, whatever. Where so they had to map it out, and they spent money mapping these areas out. Whereas Tesla, which is kind of genius, like they exist commercially, like people own Teslas, and that data is used to internally like map the roads that Teslas already drive. Now, in saying that, that had me thinking like, like when you buy a Tesla, is it a feature? You know how you go on your iPhone and you open up an app and it's like allow app to track or to project across your other apps, and I always say like, nope, don't track my data. I wonder if there's something like that for Tesla, because they're like kind of taking data on your routes. I don't own one. I know some Tesla owners. I kind of want to ask, but nonetheless, Tesla is using these routes to map where they go. So when it goes into this autonomous mode or whatever, it already has so much data, and it didn't use money because it's just inherent in the Tesla being driven. Whereas Waymo
Mhm.
spent more money and doesn't even get to map as far because it's doing a certain geographical area. So I think, sure, Waymo's more autonomous now. I think that's kind of a genius tactic that's embedded within Tesla to kind of to get them mapped. And they're not like geologs. Like
Yeah.
Tesla in theory can kind of drive wherever. Yeah.
That's why I think the approach on the hardware side and also the software will loop in data collection
Mm-hmm.
on the software side. Just Tesla is just a much more scalable model
Yes.
where where Waymo still has a little bit of tiny edge on safety and hardware because more money is spent on it. So I think it's a give and take.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I was reading somewhere though, like Elon's just gonna like hit the button, and the Tesla, all like Teslas are gonna go into like automate mode, but which again in theory, like that mass button click could exist, but I think it's just cool how I think it said, I was reading, Tesla operates off like a neural network, and the data kind of like it feeds each other. Whereas Waymo, it's like it's just mapped. Like you have these maps, these routes, go on these. Where it seems like Tesla's more of a connected learning system, which again I think is more scalable. Yeah, sounds super scary. Definitely get some doomsday theories woven in there, but I mean, for autonomous vehicle driving model, yeah, I think it's good. I don't know if you have any like strong thoughts on one way or the other. Yeah, like pro or con. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I was able to say everything. It's just like I'm glad Waymo is starting to make money though. It's serious. Like I read a statistic where Waymo is outperforming in terms of number of rides more than Lyft in San Francisco now.
Mm.
Because Lyft's been established for how long now, right? And then
Yeah.
Waymo has come into the space recently in the last couple of years, and they're starting to take much more of a market share than people expected. And I'm glad that is happening because as Waymo makes more money, they're able to invest it into their company in terms of
Right.
hardware, software, whatever it is, just to advance the, I guess, self-driving space in general, creates more competition for others,
Yeah.
especially Tesla. So they need to ramp their stuff up. They need to make it more safe, and then whatever they need to do. So I see that as a general positive in the industry. Whereas I think Tesla will be there. I feel like they're gonna be the first company to do a lot of stuff because they just have so
Yeah.
much innovation and data collected. I think it's easier for them
Resources.
to
Yeah.
make that leap forward. Whereas, maybe they're the first creator of whatever, and later on, other companies will emerge maybe that specializes in that space. So they're able to, give a little bit more attention to it. That will create healthy competition in the marketplace. So that's kind of my take on those two, or I guess it's just the industry as a whole for now.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. Do you think Well, I guess other companies could do their own mapping too, but like I feel like Tesla is gonna have so much data that do you think these other companies entering the space are gonna like try to buy, get data from Tesla or just start from ground up to map their I feel like there has to be some data sharing or some to be competitive. They're just so
Yeah.
far advanced in the space. You know what I mean? They already have so much. And another way to kind of think about this, I think, so like Waymo is, and I guess this is kind of a different topic, is more like centralized in a sense that, you got to get their maps and they're all kind of made and deployed the same way. First off, is Waymo just Jaguar or does he use different models?
I've only seen Jags with Waymo, but
Yeah,
I
I
could
think.
like the footages I've seen in different cities like LA,
Mhm.
San Francisco, those are all the same cars in Phoenix. So I think they're all the same,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. There could be different models that they're testing in different cities.
Yeah, I've only seen Jaguars, but I thought I read somewhere it was Jaguars. Mm. Oh, Jaguars and Chrysler Pacificas. Okay, I've only seen Jaguars. But
Okay.
anyways, very again centralized, like it seems like pretty linear model, whereas I think Tesla could be decentralized in the sense that, and I don't know if this exists already. I know there's Turbo, the app where you can like rent out your cars, but
Hmm.
people can use their cars that they already have, not, nobody is governing like when they do it or whatever, and just let their car be a taxi when they're not using it. Where again, Waymo, it's all the fleet, as they call it, of cars is all for this one thing. So
Hmm.
um I think Tesla will be more just harder to control, maybe, or I won't say govern, which is a whole separate point that I hear like in the RoboTaxi versus Waymo debate. Like Waymo is way more like regulatory, and they kind of are more. They share the data more, whereas Tesla is like not sharing as much of the safety data. And I mean, again, I just think it's harder to control because there's more out there, and they're way more widespread, and it's more uses. So I
Mm.
don't know. I think the whole like centralized versus decentralized piece is just kind of is an interesting. So
Yeah. I'm excited for the RoboTaxi service that individual Teslas will have. I think
Mhm.
that's just a revolutionary.
That's so cool.
It's just a next step in the leap forward. And I just see so many issues already, but like with people trashing your car and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't know. It could be a profitable thing where it may get you $200 a month in passive income because it's
Not doing
just
nothing.
taxis while you're sleeping or something like that.
Right.
So I think that'd be kind of cool.
And I think there's ways to kind of mitigate or check, like put in if they develop internal cameras, so like whoever the passenger is, like it watches, and after each ride, it like sends you a recording, or you can watch while somebody's in your car, or it'll determine how much trash is left and like charge more to that person's ride. I don't know something, but I'm sure they can find a way to promote people, the little things like that. People like not trashing your car and stuff like that. All right, so naturally, talking about self-driving cars, right? Everybody wants to know. I wanted to know, like, how safe are we really talking, right? Like, how often do they crash? I, I'm pretty sure that's the number one question on most people's minds when we talk about self-driving. So we got a few statistics. Now, again, what makes this interesting, as we noted, is that Tesla RoboTaxi can be. I saw it noted as like partial automated vehicle because there's human oversight. The supervisor, there can be human interface where it's not the same for Waymo. So um in some of the stats we can note if humans are involved, but there are some statistics for robotaxi for full self-drive.
We kind of talked about before the podcast too, where Tesla's reporting of the data, yeah, you brought up earlier, is
Mhm.
finicky in a way that's not fully transparent as Waymo's. So
Right.
with the data that they give, we gotta take it with a grain of salt a little bit when comparison, because it doesn't really make sense on the numbers as well. But we can talk about it. And with Waymo, it has tracked, and this is as of January 2025. So we're a little bit
Heck yeah.
behind. We're about 6 months behind on the data. But up to that point, it has had 56.7 million miles, driverless million miles, recorded. And injury crash rate is 0.6 million, or you get 0.6 every million miles driven for injury with a crash that involves injury. So not fatal. With
Right.
So with 0.6, that's literally more than half, or more than 200% better than humans driving it, which is already kind of speaks for the technology. And
Right.
for fatal crashes, there has only been only one recorded in the history of Waymo. So I think that's good.
There's no way.
So whereas Tesla, I'm sure it has billions and billions and billions of miles already tracked with autopilot. It doesn't
Yes.
give us the exact number, but they claim it's 0.13 crashes with injury involved. So that makes it about 5 times better than Waymo, which I don't necessarily believe. I think Waymo itself is just a safer vehicle from the technology and just on the book and from other people talking about it. So I think we can make an assumption. We can make a conclusive statement saying that regardless of Waymo or Tesla, the self-driving itself is better than a human driving it, which I can fully get behind. Where the issue comes in is Tesla has 51 recorded fatal accidents with autopilot and 2 with full self-driving. So I feel like if the data that's presented is all true, which we don't necessarily know if it's true or not, the conclusive statement that I can get from it is Waymo itself gets in more accidents, in air quotes, than Tesla, but when it gets in those accidents, it's much safer. Where Teslas, you have less accidents, but if you are involved in an accident, it's much more serious, much injuries involved, fatalities involved. So that's how I understood the data, if it's true, which we don't know if it's true or not.
Right. Yes. The data is very scarce on the Tesla side. To kind of bring it around, a big point to Rebel, right, is like a question I have, right? Does the general public think autonomous vehicles are safer than human-driven vehicles, right? And tradition would tell us. I mean, we just, I don't even know what tradition tells us. Like, we're just now experiencing autonomous vehicles. But because it's so new, I think people think like, oh, it's probably not safe yet. It got to work the bugs out. It's not ready. But some of these stats could be saying otherwise. So I think like eliminate some variables, another stat I want to bring up with just the crash frequency, just looking at Tesla, because it has human interface, right? It has a statistic for crashes for autopilot and then without autopilot, which this kind of also will highlight a point. So it says for autopilot, for Tesla, it experiences one crash per every 7.63 million miles, which is, again, I don't know what the average mean, whatever is for crash. I feel like that's pretty good. One crash per every 7.63 million miles, crazy. But without autopilot, it's one crash per every 0.96 million miles. So you're crashing way more frequently without autopilot, like with a human.
With just
and that's
a
not
human,
even comparing across brand. Yeah. That's just within Tesla, which I think, is just using their data. So that alone, I think, kind of says something, and we can kind of start to draw some conclusions for the non-believers or believers. But that's just something I wanted to add to these crash statistics. Yeah, I mean, I think autonomous vehicles are safer. Now, one could argue, well, it depends where they're driving, and like I think you said earlier, they're not driving in all conditions, so this isn't an absolute fact. It's not just all around autonomous vehicles are better. Like if you're doing a cross country road trip, I don't maybe you want to drive or be intermittent with the autonomy, but for every day back to work, probably people's normal habits, going to the grocery store, picking up your kid, like it's probably, at least with these brands, where these two companies we're talking about, you're probably pretty safe.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah,
can get behind that. It
what I mean.
just sucks. It just sucks because data and intuition and technology tells us that it's much safer, but it's just much more challenging to convince the public because I feel like we are fed this fantasy because if a full self-driving Tesla got in an accident or Waymo got in an accident, it's recorded, posted online, and everyone's like, see, this is why we can't have self-driving
Yep.
vehicles, where the narrative should be opposite. Like, oh, we only had one, weird thing happen with Waymo in the last month where we get 5 daily in the metro in the city by people driving. So that should already tell us. And because of the how this knowledge is portrayed in media and into the public, I I just fear the regulatory standpoint. I think it's important. Like regulations are very, very, very important because it forces the companies to be safe. Not rolling out a half finished product with a lot of dangers in it. It's not like that. We're comparing the fine. We're like fine picking these details. I'm like, oh, is this one better? That one better? But overall, it's much. It is a really good system and technology. So I'm just hoping that the narrative around like a self-driving shifts very rapidly. So the regulations and whoever makes up all these rules,
Yeah.
like they're on the self-driving side. So the actual underlying technology can further advance without these people trying to prevent it, I guess.
Heck yeah, dude. I agree. Do you think? Do you think we'll get to? I mean, I know your. I'm very confident I know your answer, but I'll ask for the sake of conversation. Do you think we'll get to a point where cars will integrate? Like, I kind of brought up the neural network with Teslas, but I don't think they're at the point where, like, if three Teslas are driving three different lanes, they're actually communicating to switch. I don't think we're there yet. They're probably just using their internal sensors to feed each other. But like, do you think we'll get to a point where the vehicles are actually communicating with each other, and with like the stoplights, like all road technology is just integrated for the smoothest, optimal,
Hmm.
you know, um, just transit system?
Yeah,
Or
I
do you
do
think
think
that'll be
so. I
prevented
truly
for?
believe it, and I think we'll see that in our lifetime. I I don't think it's
Ooh,
as controversial saying that will it ever happen. I think the chances are it will happen at some point, but within, if you set a time frame to it saying, before we die, I'm saying the next like 50 years, I think that's where people may argue about it. But the technology already exists for, short distance communication between vehicles. The hard part is mass implementation because basically like all cars need to have it. And I do think in the future, like it will be kind of it will be like an occasion to drive your gas powered non self driving vehicle. It would be like, hey, hey, we haven't drove in like 3 years. Let's go drive this thing. I think it'll be more like that, where when the cars were introduced, how it, you know, what effect it had on the horses, right? Like people still ride horses, but it's not like you might see them like once or twice a year, depending on where you live. So that's my personal take. And I could see a world where maybe this is not in my lifetime, but with the full, like what you said, the fully integrated traffic systems where like all the traffic lights sending all the signals like, hey, it's about to turn green, about 3, 2, 1, everyone just, it's all perfect and seamless. I don't know if I'm 50-50 on whether we're going to see that in our lifetime, but it's kind of different topic. I also I watch a lot of like engineering videos, and one of the things I saw was a highway to, how you go from a highway to a road, like a non-highway road, when you
Yeah,
get
like
off an exit. Basically, it uses a similar concept where all roads can be designed in a similar manner where you can get rid of all traffic lights and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, like that's so cool. And then you don't need
right.
any. Yeah, it shows you with like a little car's animation, and it works. Obviously, that's going
Yeah,
to
I'd have to
take
see that.
millions and billions of money and infrastructure for for an entire city to adopt this model. So that's the part that I don't know. Like the technology exists, and I think we can at least implement that today. But that's going to be at least a 20-30 year project just from like labor standpoint too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my future take
Mm.
on, or my take on the future outlook. What are you thinking for the
You make
future
it. Yeah.
stuff?
No, I hadn't even thought about the implementation. I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, it's possible or not. But like you said, the infrastructure, like the labor for the infrastructure to actually change all that would be pretty insane and would take forever. Uh, Dude, so I agree. I think we're gonna get in a more like cohesive system. If it's gonna be in our lifetime or not, I don't know. And then you're also gonna have the like not the naysayers, but just the people that reject that change, right? Like I feel like for something of that to work, you need like at least 90% or higher mass adoption. But if only like it's 50-50, like 50% of people have cars that can operate on this network and 50% of people don't, those people that are still driving, introducing a human error, going slower than they need to, faster than they need to. So it's not letting the system to be fluid. That's gonna hold that back too. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like an all or nothing thing. And I just don't know unless they roll out like a mandate, kind of like they did with the IDs now. It's like you have till this date to get the new
Oh,
ID or you can't travel. Like they might do some shit like that where it's like you have until 2027 to get this type of car that can fit this system, or like these cars are gonna be obsolete if they're on the road. You're getting impounded immediately. Like unless they force it, then I just think there'll always be some level of resistance. So I think it's
dude,
possible, but like you said, it's
I
just when.
with what you said, I believe in what I said much, much, much more now.
Yep, because
Okay,
yeah.
okay, but okay. Now I'm thinking, can you get on the road with your horse today? Is that
Like
illegal? Like,
not yes, you can't be like in the streets. But then I think like the Amish, they do it. But I think they're on like side road. They're like on the
yeah,
side of
I
the street.
don't
You
know. Like,
can't
I
be
feel like it would be illegal to just take your horse on a highway, right?
right. Yes, yes. I don't know this for
So,
sure, but
yeah,
yes,
okay.
because like you'll see horses
Now,
in cities. Like people do the horse-drawn carriages, and they're like in the
yeah.
streets, but it's so few that it doesn't really affect. But like with the cars, you'd still probably have like like a lot of people using the OG cars, the gas power, you know what I mean? So
But the mandate thing, I could see that
the mandate
because
could change
the
that.
technology will absolutely be there.
Yes,
Like
100, yes,
we
no
are
question.
advancing in AI in a crazy pace where all this
Mhm.
software and capability stuff, it's not going to be an issue. But I could definitely see at a certain point where they're like, hey, the mandate thing, give it 20 years from that date. Like
Yeah.
by 2070, I could definitely see that. And that would help it would just make everything better.
Yeah, that would be. I could see it too. You get like some turn-in value for your car if you're forced to give it up, so you're not like just losing all your money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could they could see this is more of like a way more philosophical, I guess, question, but I see this is like low key off topic, but I'm just thinking if we develop, like because you're going to mandate, right? So let's say there's only like three big companies that emerge that are creating these cars. So you get like everybody in the world, whatever, in the United States gets one of three cars. So now it's just
Mm.
very baseline. Now you don't have the like, now you ride into some neighborhoods and you all start to see all the cars. You're seeing like Porsches and BMWs, Beamers, and then you go into some neighborhoods and it's like half the cars got spare tires on them and like paint chipped. You can like visually see the disparity or like the social economic divide. But if everybody has one of two or three cars, there's no high class, there's no low class, it's just standard, or there's only like, top tier, middle tier, bottom tier, but they kind of all function the same. Um, I don't know. Do you think that could help or hurt society if it's just like almost creates an equalizer? Like no, strictly speaking, vehicle, right? Nobody's better or worse, or I'm just thinking like, will that start to trend towards like a utopia or a dystopia? Like
Mm.
everything's the same. So I don't know. My thoughts are kind of spiraling, but I'm wondering if
I,
we'll advance so much till it just like everything becomes like just sameness. Like there's no fancy cars, there's no bad cars, it's just car. You have car, and it's
yeah,
just
that
on this network.
I'm not a fan of
Uh,
that personally
mm,
because limiting, if it's like limited to that level, it just disencourages competition from all these companies to
yeah.
perform to make a better car in the future. So I think that's going to slow us down. But depending on
Mm.
those three cars, I think it'll be good in terms of road safety, right? I think less people driving on the roads will be much safer and kind of different take into this adoption piece. But another thing to consider that we haven't really talked about is this global phenomenon where all these major companies are buying up everything, where you will be
Mm.
a renter forever in your life type of thinking. And I could see more of that coming into the car space where,
Mm.
maybe in like 50 years, it might be 50-50 if you own a car or not. Because if you live in a city, like the transportation becomes so cheap on these, there's going to be so many EV self driving
Yeah.
by itself. You're just like, call an app. It just financially makes sense to utilize the taxis every single day rather than just buying something. And it's going to be one of those, rent versus do I buy rent or do I buy a house type of conversation where financially speaking, you can do this or you can buy it. And if you're going to hold on to this car for 30 years, but then it's going to be, there's going to be new cars coming out with better technology. So there's going to be a lot of pieces into the conversation. But I could see, I could definitely see a trend where car ownership goes down in the future because you just don't need it as much.
Dude, yes. I mean, we were kind of talking about this before we started. Is car ownership decreasing already? I'm trying to look it up. So this is again just a quick Google typed in. It says while car ownership in the US is still increasing, there is signs that it may be slowing down and some trends suggest potential decrease in the future.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something. Certainly in cities like metropolitan areas where there's more abundant and cheaper public transportation, I think it's going down. But like you said, is that gonna kind of spread out, or because there's all these easier means and autonomous means to get around, people just like not need cars as much?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I think, especially like certain populations, right? Like you take the elderly group, like right now, people have grandma and grandpas that still drive, but in our lifetimes, it's probably like once you hit a certain age, just where he's like, you can drive, but you're way worse. You can't drive at night because you can't see.
Yeah.
Like that demographic of people will really probably just be like, you know what? I'm just strictly public and automated transportation. And it starts, that whole demographic shifts. And now it's just like your everyday person might, shift to automated vehicles or, I think you're onto something.
Because even right now, it's not cost efficient for me to do so, but I can get to every single place I want to go without a car. Like I could take a Waymo to anywhere that I need to go on a daily basis. I can go to work. I can come back home. I can go to the grocery store. I can go to whatever, literally whatever else you need to travel. Go see friends.
Yep.
It even takes me to the airport. So if I'm going to a different city, I'll just hop on a Waymo, right? And the Waymo's definitely expanding into other places. So
Oh, yeah.
as cities just become, like more like Phoenix, more like San Francisco in a way for the self-driving stuff, it's gonna get better. You saw Waymo is Waymo. I think it already launched in Atlanta recently,
I think so
and
too. Yeah.
it's starting a beta in Manhattan, which will be crazy place to drive for self-driving
Yeah.
cars. And also they're trying to expand into Japan as well.
Hey, I could
Yeah,
definitely see that.
yeah, and that's gonna be weird because the taxi industry is huge in Japan, right? Like
What?
much bigger than the US. And there's so many taxi drivers everywhere in Japan. But that's gonna raise some eyebrows as those gets implemented in Japan for sure. I can definitely see that.
Dude, no doubt. And everything, we discussed, I think we've made it clear, kind of like where you and I stand on autonomous vehicles and why it kind of goes against what we know. But right now,
Mm-hmm.
do you, I gotta be careful how I word this because I don't want to say, do you trust more or do you think it's better? I'll say, if you had to get a ride right now, I'll say a 20-minute ride somewhere from your house to you pick a location right now. Are you calling, but let's just say hypothetically, both exist in your area. Are you calling Waymo? Are you calling Tesla RoboTaxi, and why?
Right now, today,
Right now, today.
I'm gonna call the Tesla because I've never been in one. But assuming that it has been rolled out, at this point in time, I personally wouldn't care that much. But because I'm making a decision of one or the other,
Yeah,
I
you have
gotta go
to.
with
Yep.
Waymo.
And why?
It just there's a bias built into it because I have written Waymo multiple times, and it's just so cautious when it
Okay.
drives, very conservative in the driving style, and Waymo has a good history and track record of minimal accidents and only having one fatal accident, whereas Tesla, it has a lot more driven miles, so the data isn't apples to apples, but you just hear it on the media more. And I just don't know the truth behind it. So to me, it seems like Tesla's not as safe as Waymo in today's just for today. I'm recording this June 30th, 2025. It could change in the future.
No, facts. And to layer on that, like Tesla's more sketchy with their data. Like Waymo is known to be very open and transparent with
Mhm.
like what they publicize and the safety statistics and stuff. So yeah. And dude, I think I would agree with you for a lot of the same reasons. But now if we shift the question, what do I think is more scalable, or do I think will do good? See, when I say do good, it's like I'm trying to think, like, what do I mean by that? Do I think it was more profitable? Do I think it's safer? Do I think it's more efficient? Like, those are all individual questions. So it's hard to ask. I'm trying to add one encompassing question. But in the long run, so I would also pick Waymo today, for the reasons you named. But in the long run, which again is to be determined, I think I would pick Tesla. It just has so many resources. It I think Waymo has more hardware, But again, that doesn't mean Tesla can't get it. And I think they already are working with so much data, and they already have, the software updates. Whereas I feel like to upgrade a Waymo car, the barriers to do that, like it just costs way more, and it costs less to update a Tesla, and it just costs more outright. Like a Tesla costs less than a Waymo, like
Yeah, I'm
period.
sure it does. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's a fact. So if I'm looking downrange a little bit, I'm going Tesla right now. Waymo could have some developments as well. But if it was today, if we hopped off this pod and I had to call up one right now, I think I'm gonna call up a Waymo. Speaking of which, they're hitting all these big cities. They need to hit Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
I don't know, like, or maybe it's too big, like New York, because like New York, it's funny, I saw a video on this recently. New York is rated number 1 in the United States for most traffic. You know what number 2 is? Chicago.
Oh, really?
So like maybe it's 2. Yeah.
I didn't know it was.
Not, what was it? It was like for transit through traffic. I forget how they ranked it, but it was like, number 1 was whatever traffic category, and Chicago was number 2. So maybe they're picking cities that it's like, has a high footprint, but not like too much traffic. I don't know. I don't know what the calculus is.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think they're. I don't know why Chicago, but I mean San Francisco is crazy traffic.
I think it was top
crazy
5
traffic
for sure.
So,
for sure.
But if they can do it in San Francisco, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do it in Chicago.
Right.
It probably might be just regulations. I think personally, but I do want to add one thing, something quick for down the range. You were talking about Tesla, but next year or 2027, Tesla is supposed to come out with a Cybercab, where it's just a taxi. Like it's more like the Waymo model, where you can't even buy it. It's just a taxi thing, and I thought it was kind of cool. Like I saw the mock-up pictures. Like it doesn't have a wheel. It doesn't have pedals. It's just like another seat. So that's more suitable for like a taxi, right? Like why do you need a steering wheel for just to be a taxi? So that's going to be, we're going to have to wait a little bit, a year or two, but I think there'll be another interesting comparison when that time comes around.
Dude, heck, how did I forget about that? I'm so glad you brought that up. And back to the Amazon one, I don't know how to say Zook, ZOOX. It's like, so you know how the new Amazon, like Rivian, the Rivian models, you seen them? They're like very boxy, big like van kind of. This one's literally like a box. I should have pulled a video so we can like overlay it. It's like very boxy. It's glass, and it has like it's not like car door, it's like sliding doors, and it's very much like a trolley type thing on wheels. But again, I don't think it has steering wheels either, and like people can stand or sit like anywhere in it. It's just a complete different model. Again, it's taking a different take on our standard car SUV type of look. Kind of like you were saying about the cyber taxi, or was it Cybercab, right?
Cybercab, yeah.
Yeah. So they're just making it purely like, right, like why do you need a wheel? Why do you need a pedal? It's just this glassy box that it can go forward, back. Like there's no definitive front and there's no definitive rear. It's like a box on wheels. Yeah.
No, dude, I'm looking at the pictures now, and that actually makes much more sense from a
I mean, it does.
If
you need zero human interface, it definitely does.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, who knows what we're gonna see in these next couple of years as far as like, how these things are starting to look.
Yeah, I'm excited.
For sure.
I'm definitely gonna. The next vehicle that I buy, it's not gonna be at least 8 years, because I said I'm gonna keep my car that I buy for 10 years.
Yeah.
But when that hits, like I'm buying a car with full self-driving. In 8 years, the technology is gonna be much better. And I just imagine a day where I wake up, I get ready for work, and I don't have to drive to work. I just hop in my car and I just play games until I get to work. That,
bro, you're imagining, that could be today. The capabilities there.
It could, but I got to stick to my own
I feel you.
I made a commitment, and so I need to stick to it. So I can't for another 7 years and 9 months. But when the time hits, I'm going off.
That's valid. And like I'm looking for a car now, so I was like, originally I was like, well, I'm not getting EV. I'll tell you that. But hybrid is becoming. I'll tell you that. Hybrid is becoming more and more appealing, and the car that I'm driving right now, because my car works, but I don't even trust it to basically get around the corner. So I'm driving a hybrid vehicle, and it's nice. So I don't know. I might get a hybrid, but same. The car I get now, I'm going to have for at least a decade. But I could see myself whatever I get after that, just like you. I'm not gonna say I'm for sure gonna be. It'll be like EV or like self-driving or whatever, but there's a good chance it will be.
Yeah.
It definitely, yeah. Dude, a decade, there's so much that to happen. All right, dude. Man, I think so. All right. We already know autonomous vehicles is the future. But so we're going today, are between Tesla and Waymo, the modern day winner. Who are we picking?
I think it would be disrespectful not to give it to Waymo today. It just
I can get behind that.
They have they're doing stuff right, and not to say that Tesla is doing stuff wrong, but I think it will be much more of a comparison in 1 year from today, because
Yes.
RoboTaxi just rolled out this month.
Well said.
In Austin, Texas. So the
Yeah,
data point is just not as much. But yeah, today Waymo for sure, safety, cost, everything. I mean, accessibility. I think Waymo has it down.
Yes, sir. All right. Shout out to Waymo. All right. Well, that's it on autonomous vehicles, the leaders, and some of our thoughts. So we will catch you next week. Thank you.